Welcome to ancient Australia, a land unlike any we know today. We're going back in time, way back to the Pleistocene epoch. This was a time of giants, a world filled with incredible creatures. Imagine kangaroos that stood taller than a person, and wombats the size of a small car. But ruling this wild kingdom was a true monster, a lizard of epic proportions. This creature was Megalania, the largest land lizard that has ever walked the earth. It wasn't a dinosaur, but it was just as fearsome. This giant reptile was a top predator, the king of its domain, and its story is one of the most exciting tales from prehistoric times. Megalania, whose name means great roamer, lived from about 1.5 million years ago until around 40,000 years ago. Think about that. It roamed the Australian landscape for over 1 million years. This wasn't some short-lived wonder. It was a dominant force for an incredibly long time. Its home was the vast open woodlands and grasslands of ancient Australia. This was a tough environment, full of challenges and dangers. But for a giant, powerful lizard like Megalania, it was the perfect hunting ground. Its presence would have shaped the entire ecosystem, influencing the behavior and evolution of every other animal that shared its world. What exactly was this incredible beast? Megalania was a massive monitor lizard. If you've ever seen a Komodo dragon, you're on the right track. Now imagine a Komodo dragon that has been supersized. Megalania was a close relative belonging to the same group of lizards called varanids. But while the Komodo dragon is the heavyweight champion of lizards today, it would look like a lightweight next to its ancient cousin. Megalania was longer, heavier, and more powerful than any lizard alive. It represents the peak of lizard evolution, a perfect example of how these reptiles could grow to become the apex predators of an entire continent. Getting to know Megalania is like piecing together a giant puzzle. Scientists have had to work like detectives, using fossil clues to bring this amazing animal back to life. Every bone, every tooth, tells a part of its story. It helps us understand not just the animal itself, but the world it inhabited. We can learn what it ate, how it moved, and even how it might have interacted with the first humans to arrive in Australia. The story of Megalania is more than just a tale of a big lizard. It's a journey into a lost world, a wild and untamed Australia that was home to some of the most spectacular creatures in Earth's history. The story of how we came to know Megalania begins in the 1850s. Imagine paleontologists digging in the dusty soil of Queensland, Australia. They weren't looking for lizards. They were finding the bones of giant marsupials like Diprotodon. But among these massive bones, they started finding something different. They found vertebrae, the bones that make up a spine, but these were not from any mammal. They were reptilian and they were huge. A famous British scientist named Sir Richard Owen was the first to study these strange fossils. In 1859 he realized they belonged to a gigantic extinct monitor lizard. He gave it the name Megalania prisca, which means ancient great roamer. It was a fitting name for a creature that once ruled a continent. At first, scientists only had a few scattered bones to work with. This made it very difficult to know exactly what Megalania looked like, or how big it truly was. It's like trying to build a huge model airplane with only a few of the pieces and no instruction manual. Early estimates of its size were often exaggerated, with some people imagining a lizard that was 30 feet long. As more fossils were discovered over the next century, including parts of the skull, jaw bones, and limb bones, a clearer picture began to emerge. Each new bone was a crucial clue, helping researchers refine their understanding of this incredible animal's anatomy and size. The process of studying Megalania is a fantastic example of comparative anatomy. That's when scientists compare the bones of an extinct animal to those of its living relatives. For Megalania, the most important living relatives are the Komodo dragon and the Australian lace monitor. By looking at the shape and size of Megalania's vertebrae and comparing them to the vertebrae of these modern lizards, scientists could create a more accurate model of its body. They could estimate its length, its weight, and even how its body might have been proportioned. It was this careful, detailed work that allowed them to move from wild guesses to scientific, evidence-based reconstructions. Today, paleontologists continue to search for more complete Megalania fossils. A complete skeleton has never been found, so there are still many mysteries left to solve. Every new fragment, no matter how small, adds to our knowledge. Modern technology also plays a huge role. Scientists can use CT scans to look inside the fossil bones without damaging them. This helps them study the internal structure, like the brain case, and learn more about the lizard's senses and behavior. The hunt for Megalania is far from over, and the next big discovery could be waiting just beneath the Australian soil, ready to reveal another secret about this prehistoric giant. So, just how big was this great roamer? While the early estimates were a bit wild, modern science gives us a much more accurate and still terrifying picture. Based on the fossils we have, most scientists agree that Megalania probably reached lengths of around 18 feet or about 5.5 meters. To put that into perspective, that's longer than a large car and more than 3 times the length of an average-sized saltwater crocodile. Its weight is estimated to have been over 1,300 pounds, or 600 kilograms. This made it the undisputed largest terrestrial lizard to have ever existed, a true giant that would have dwarfed any lizard alive today. Megalania's body was built for power. It had a robust, heavy-set frame with thick, strong limb bones. This suggests it was not a fast sprinter over long distances but a powerful ambusher. It would have walked with a low-slung, sprawling gait similar to modern monitor lizards, with its massive body held close to the ground. Its tail was long and muscular, acting as a counterbalance to its heavy head and body. It likely had tough, scaly skin, much like its modern relatives. This skin would have been like a suit of armor, offering protection from the struggles with its prey and the harsh Australian environment. Let's talk about the business end, the head and teeth. Megalania's skull was heavily built, and its jaws were filled with large, sharp, serrated teeth. These teeth were like steak knives, perfect for slicing through flesh and bone. Unlike some reptiles, Megalania's teeth were replaced throughout its life, so it always had a sharp set ready for action. But the most frightening discovery might be the possibility of venom. For a long time, scientists thought only snakes were venomous. But recent research on Komodo dragons has shown that they have venom glands in their lower jaws. Since Megalania was a close relative, it's very likely that it was venomous too. Imagine the bite of this creature. Not only would the physical damage from those huge teeth be devastating, but a dose of venom would have made the situation even worse. The venom would likely have caused a rapid drop in blood pressure, shock, and prevented the blood from clotting. This means that even if an animal escaped an initial attack from Megalania, it would quickly weaken from blood loss and the effects of the venom. This would have made Megalania an incredibly efficient predator, able to take down prey much larger than itself. It was a walking combination of brute force and biochemical warfare. Megalania lived in an Australia that was very different from the one we see today. During the Pleistocene, the environment was, well, a mosaic of open forests, woodlands, and vast grasslands. It was a landscape shaped by changing climates, sometimes wetter and sometimes much drier than it is now. This was the perfect habitat for a large ground-dwelling predator. The forests and tall grasses would have provided excellent cover for Megalania to hide and wait for its prey. It could lie motionless for hours, its scaly skin providing perfect camouflage against the rocks and dry vegetation, waiting for the right moment to strike. This ancient world was populated by a group of animals known as the Australian Megafauna. The name really says it all. These were giant versions of the animals we know today. There were enormous, short-faced kangaroos which stood over 6 feet tall and had a single large toe on each foot. Herds of, the largest marsupial ever, roamed the plains. These creatures were the size of a rhinoceros and looked something like a giant wombat. There were also flightless birds bigger than emus, and even a marsupial lion named, a powerful predator with terrifying bolt-cutter-like teeth. In this land of giants, Megalania was at the very top of the food chain. It was an apex predator, which means it had no natural enemies as an adult. Everything else was potential food. The presence of such a formidable hunter would have had a huge impact on the other animals. Herds of Diprotodon would have had to be constantly on alert. The giant kangaroos would have needed their powerful legs not just for traveling, but for making a quick escape. Even other predators like the marsupial lion would have likely avoided a confrontation with a full-grown Megalania. It was the king of this prehistoric kingdom. Living alongside these giants required special adaptations. Megalania's incredible sense of smell, aided by its forked tongue that tasted the air, would have been its primary tool for finding food. It could detect the scent of a potential meal or a dead animal from miles away. Its keen eyesight would have helped it spot movement in the grasslands. Its powerful body, sharp teeth, and possible venom gave it all the tools it needed to survive and thrive in this dangerous neighborhood. For over 1 million years, Megalania was perfectly adapted to its role as the ultimate predator in the wild world of Pleistocene Australia. As an apex predator, Megalania was a master hunter. But it probably wasn't a creature that chased its prey over long distances. Its heavy body was built for power, not for sustained speed. Instead, Megalania was almost certainly an ambush predator, a specialist in the art of the surprise attack. It would use its natural camouflage to blend into the landscape, lying perfectly still near a game trail or a water hole. It would wait patiently, sometimes for hours, for an unsuspecting animal to wander within striking distance. When the moment was right, it would explode from its hiding spot with a terrifying burst of speed, a short and incredibly powerful charge. The diet of Megalania would have included almost any animal it could overpower. Its main targets were likely the large and medium-sized Megafauna that shared its habitat. A young or sick Diprotodon would have been a prime meal, providing enough food to last for weeks. The giant kangaroos and wombats were also on the menu. Megalania would have been capable of taking down prey much larger than itself, using its powerful bite and venom to wear down even the biggest animals. It would grab onto a leg or the neck, and then let its sharp teeth and deadly venom do the work. Like modern Komodo dragons, Megalania was probably not a picky eater. It would have been an active hunter, but also an opportunistic scavenger. Its powerful sense of smell would have guided it to the carcasses of animals that had died from other causes. In the tough Australian environment, no meal could be wasted. A dead Diprotodon would have attracted predators from all around, and a giant like Megalania would have had no trouble chasing away other scavengers like the marsupial lion to claim the feast for itself. It could consume huge quantities of meat in one sitting, storing fat in its tail for leaner times. There is also fascinating and direct evidence of Megalania's hunting behavior. Paleontologists have found the fossil bones of other megafauna, including a giant kangaroo, that have clear bite marks on them. The size and spacing of these marks perfectly match the teeth of Megalania. This is like finding a prehistoric crime scene. It gives us a direct window into the violent interactions of this ancient ecosystem. These fossils confirm that Megalania was actively hunting and eating the other giants of its time, cementing its reputation as the most formidable predator in ancient Australia. The reign of Megalania came to an end around 40,000 years ago. This was a time of great change in Australia, and the giant lizard disappeared along with most of the other megafauna. So, what happened? Scientists believe it was likely a combination of two major factors: climate change and the arrival of humans. During this period, Australia's climate became much hotter and drier. The forests and woodlands began to shrink, replaced by vast deserts. This change in the environment would have made life much harder for the large herbivores that Megalania depended on for food. As their food sources disappeared, so did the great hunter. The second major factor was the arrival of the first people in Australia around 65,000 years ago. For thousands of years, humans and Megalania shared the continent. Imagine being one of those early people and coming face to face with a lizard the size of a car. There is no direct fossil evidence like a spear point found with Megalania bones to prove that humans hunted the giant lizard. However, humans were incredibly effective hunters. They would have competed with Megalania for the same prey, like kangaroos and Diprotodon. They also used fire to manage the landscape, which further changed the environment. The pressure from both climate change and human activity was likely too much for Megalania to handle. The extinction of Megalania marked the end of an era. For millions of years, giant reptiles had a place as top predators on Earth. But with Megalania's disappearance, that role was largely taken over by mammals. The giant lizard was gone, but it was not forgotten. Today, Megalania holds a special place in both science and popular culture. For paleontologists, it is a key subject of study for understanding prehistoric ecosystems, the evolution of reptiles, and the dynamics of extinction. It serves as a powerful reminder of how dramatically life on our planet can change. In popular culture, Megalania has become a true prehistoric celebrity, a monster of mythic proportions. It appears in documentaries, books, and video games, often portrayed as the ultimate reptilian monster. While these portrayals are sometimes exaggerated, they have sparked the imagination of people all over the world and have introduced a new generation to this incredible creature. The story of Megalania is a powerful one. It is a tale of a real-life dragon that ruled a continent, a symbol of the wild and lost world of prehistoric Australia, and a warning about how quickly even the most dominant creatures can disappear forever.